All right, listeners, get ready, because today we're going deep. We're talking about the Pathwalker's Guide to the Nine Worlds.
Mhm.
You know, the one by Raven Caldera. We'll be looking at that alongside some choice bits from The Law of One.
Oh, that's a great pairing. I mean, you've got Caldera over here talking about, like, practical stuff, almost like a how-to guide for these spiritual realms.
Right.
And then you've got the raw material, which is, well, it's a whole other level.
Yeah, it really zooms out. Big picture stuff,
Exactly.
consciousness, evolution, the nature of reality, you name it. But one thing that really struck me in Caldera's book is how he separates pathwalking from astral travel.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying pathwalking is like actual travel between dimensions, not just some out-of-body experience.
Interesting.
And he even brings up using these Anglo-Saxon runes to find your way around.
Okay, so that raises a question for me. Is this something anyone can just do, like pick up and try?
Well, Caldera seems to think it's a skill you can develop, but he's big on preparation
Yeah.
and respect, especially for the beings you might run into in those other realms.
Right, you're not just popping into a gift shop, right?
Exactly. This is serious stuff.
Makes sense. And it actually connects with what the raw material says about seeking knowledge, yeah, but with the right heart, with a desire to help others.
I see what you're saying. So maybe these otherworldly journeys aren't just about sightseeing. It's more like personal growth, spiritual evolution.
Could be.
So let's get into some of these 9 worlds Caldera describes. Some of them sound amazing, like take Asgard,
Oh, yeah.
home of the Aesir gods, walls, the Bifrost Bridge, the whole 9 yards, like something straight out of Norse mythology.
Right, and it kind of represents this idea of a structured spiritual world, with hierarchy, levels, kind of like the densities of consciousness in the raw material.
Ah, interesting parallel. Then you've got Yotenheim, land of frost giants, and, get this, the Iron Wood.
Oh, wow.
Caldera even talks about humans getting hazed in this realm. Like, it's some kind of cosmic test
Yeah.
of your strength, your willpower.
So there's definitely this element of challenge, maybe even danger,
Right.
which both Caldera and the raw material emphasize that need to be prepared mentally and spiritually.
Absolutely.
Jotunheim could be that part of spiritual experience that's more chaotic, more unpredictable.
Right, where you can't just coast.
Exactly. And then there's Alfheim, realm of the light and dark elves,
Oh, the elves.
where time's all fluid and glamour is the name of the game.
Sounds like perceptions could get pretty twisted there.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like reality itself becomes, like, malleable.
It's really interesting because it actually lines up with a lot of fairy lore.
Right.
But think about how often we deal with illusions in our own lives. Advertising, social media,
Yeah.
even our own biases.
That's a good point.
So maybe Alfheim's a reminder to always question what we see and dig deeper for the truth.
I like that.
Okay, and we can't forget about Helheim,
Oh, hell.
the underworld ruled by Hela.
It's described as this vast, guarded realm with a tourist area and then the real depths of the world.
Oh, that's a bit creepy.
Gives me chills.
Definitely raises questions about what happens after we die, doesn't it?
Big time.
And that tourist area idea, maybe it's like a surface level understanding of death,
Okay.
while the true Helheim holds the deeper mysteries.
About consciousness,
Yeah.
what lies beyond the physical.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if these realms are really out there
Yeah.
and we can interact with them, what kind of tools are we talking about? What can we actually use?
Well, that's where it gets even more interesting. Caldera talks about using runes in pathwalking, specifically Anglo-Saxon runes.
Oh.
He even mentions Tyr, which he calls the weapon spell,
Oh, wow.
and Hagalaz, the rune of chaos.
You've got to wonder about the consequences of using that kind of power.
For sure. These aren't just symbols. They carry deep meanings.
Hmm.
And potentially very potent energies.
You can't just toss them around.
No, you need to know what you're doing.
And that connects to what the raw material says about responsibility. Yeah.
The responsibility that comes with knowledge and power.
It's not enough to just hoard information.
You have to use it wisely, ethically.
Absolutely.
Now, this is something I found really interesting. Caldera actually uses more runes than the traditional Norse Futhark.
Oh, really?
He says it's because he likes having more tools to work with.
Okay.
But it made me think about the raw material
Mm.
and how it stresses the importance of recognizing our own biases.
Yeah.
Like, could his choice of runes reflect his own unique perspective?
It could, totally. Certain runes might resonate with him more than others because of his experiences, his beliefs.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like we all approach these spiritual concepts through our own lens.
Our own unique lens.
Right. And just like our journeys shape our spiritual beliefs, they can also influence the tools we choose to use.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, so we've talked about Caldera's take on things and some of the tools he uses, but let's dig into the law of one for a bit. One of
Okay.
the biggest ideas there is this concept that all is one.
And that one is love light.
It's a beautiful concept.
It really ties in with Caldera's emphasis on respecting those beings in other realms.
If we're all connected like that, part of this big web of consciousness,
Yeah,
then harming another being is like harming ourselves.
it all comes back around. And the law of one talks about service to others as a key part of spiritual evolution. It's not just about knowledge or power.
Right.
It's about using those things to help others, to make the world a better place.
And, you could even say that Caldera writing his book, sharing his experiences like that,
Yeah.
that's an act of service in itself.
It is. He's helping people understand these concepts, maybe even inspiring them to start their own spiritual journeys.
Definitely.
Now, the Law of One also mentions this thing called the King's Chamber effect.
Oh, right.
Basically, the idea is that amplifying energy, whether it's physical or spiritual, can be dangerous if it's not handled responsibly.
It's like giving someone a loaded weapon when they
Yeah.
have no idea how to use it.
A recipe for disaster. And it reminds me of what Caldera says about those negative entities. What if chasing power or knowledge for the wrong reasons actually makes us more vulnerable to them?
It's a scary thought. Both sources seem to agree that real spiritual progress
Yeah.
comes from humility, respect, a genuine desire to serve the greater good.
Not just yourself.
Exactly.
Another fascinating concept from the Law of One is wanderers.
Wanderers.
These are souls from higher densities
Okay.
who choose to be born on Earth to help raise the overall consciousness here.
They often feel like they don't belong, like they're strangers here.
Right.
Maybe a strong sense of purpose, like they're here to do something important.
But not always sure what that is.
Makes you wonder if Caldera himself could be a wanderer.
I was thinking the same
He
thing.
talks about being a shaman,
Right.
someone who communicates with other realms and brings back knowledge to share.
That sense of mission lines up perfectly with the wanderer idea.
It does, even if he doesn't use that label. The fact that he's drawn to these other realms and feels compelled to share what he's learned suggests a pretty deep spiritual calling.
Now, the Law of One also brings up psychic attacks
Oh.
from negative entities,
Okay.
especially those linked to the Orion constellation.
That's intense.
It's like there's this cosmic battle going on,
between light and darkness.
and anyone trying to raise consciousness becomes a target.
Makes you appreciate Caldera's emphasis on shielding and protection.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about physical harm. It's about those subtle, energetic influences.
And they can mess with your balance, your well-being.
Right. It's not just about pathwalking either. Whether we're exploring other realms or just living our everyday lives,
Yeah.
we need to be aware of these energies.
And find ways to stay grounded.
Centered, protected.
So after looking at both Caldera's guide and the Law of One, this big theme that keeps coming up,
What's that?
intention and awareness.
Absolutely. It's not just about what we know or the techniques we use.
Right.
It's about our motivations.
The level of consciousness we bring to our spiritual practices.
It's like we're being asked to step up
Take responsibility for our own spiritual evolution.
and recognize that our choices, our actions
Yeah.
have consequences.
Not just for us,
But for everyone, it's
Yeah.
like we're all co-creating this reality together.
whether we realize it or not.
That's a powerful thought. It makes you see how much influence we have.
Just through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So where does all this leave us? We've got these 9 worlds, this idea of spiritual evolution. What's someone listening to this supposed to take away? Especially if they're trying to figure out their own path.
That's the big question, isn't it? One thing that keeps coming up for me is this idea of choice.
Uh-huh.
We're not just along for the ride.
Okay.
We get to choose how we deal with this stuff. Whether we actively explore these other realms, like through pathwalking,
Yeah.
or just try to be more aware of the interconnectedness of everything, right here in our everyday lives.
I like that. Even if we're not ready to hop over to Jotunheim,
Right.
we can still connect with those deeper parts of ourselves.
It's like the universe.
It's about being intentional,
Yeah.
bringing that awareness into everything we do.
Exactly. And it's not about finding the right path. It's about finding what works for you,
Yeah.
what speaks to your soul, and then going for it with an open heart and a genuine desire to learn and grow.
So it's the journey that matters.
Absolutely. But the choices we make along the way, those matter too.
Because they have consequences.
Like we've seen in both Caldera and the Law of One, Our intentions and actions have ripple effects.
It's almost like we're all creating this reality together.
Whether we know it or not.
And that's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's also incredibly empowering.
If someone's listening and they're feeling inspired, want to explore these ideas further, where should they start?
Well, obviously, the Pathwalker's Guide to the Nine Worlds and the Law of One Material are great places to start.
Of course.
But beyond that, cultivate curiosity.
Oh,
Be open to new things.
I like it.
Pay attention to synchronicities. Those little nudges from the universe.
Yeah.
Try different spiritual practices. See what resonates with you. Most importantly, trust your gut.
That inner guidance.
Exactly.
It's about being our own explorers, not just following someone else's map.
The most profound discoveries are the ones we make within ourselves.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. We just scratched the surface of these two sources.
There's so much more to explore.
But hopefully this deep dive sparked some curiosity.
Great.
Maybe even inspired you to keep digging on your own.
Remember, spiritual exploration, it's a lifelong journey.
There's always more to learn.
More to experience. More to discover.
So keep asking questions. Keep searching for answers. And most importantly, keep that sense of wonder alive. Until next time, may your path be filled with light and discovery.